here is something that I think is in largely speaking relatively meaningless, but I think that in some ways a claim like this from Trump does more damage to him than even his mumbo jumbo about taxes and all the other things, because it is basically like taking somebody and dunking them in a swimming pool and saying, you are dry. Here is Donald Trump arguing that his temperament is better than Hillary's. This is
Why is your judgment any different than Mrs. Clinton?
Well, I have much better judgment than she does. There's no question about that. I also have a much better temperament than she has. I have a much better. She spent, let me tell you, she spent hundreds of millions of dollars on an advertising. They get Madison Avenue into a room, they put names. Oh, temperament, let's go after. I think my strongest asset, maybe by far, is my temperament. I have a winning temperament. I know how to win. She does not know how to win.
Clinton.
Wait, the AFL-CIO the other day, behind the blue screen, I don't know who you were talking to, Secretary Clinton, but you were totally out of control. I said, there's a person with a temperament that's got a problem.
Secretary Clinton.
Woo, okay.
I mean, I mean, at that point, I think I would have just looked at Lester Holt and said, what do you want me to say?
Yeah, well, okay. I mean,
my favorite part is I'm sorry. He says he's arguing he has a better temperament and basically tells Lester Holt to shut up. Let me finish and explain why I have a better temperament.
I know. And this is after, the guy has spent the entire time up to that point basically pouting, sniffing, rolling his eyes, shrugging his shoulders. He was behaving with just on the pure visual of it, like a 14-year-old boy. And that may be unfair to 14-year-old boys, but it was obvious that he has a very, I'll put it kindly, an immature temperament. He is not in control of himself and does not know how to do this. And that's very obvious. It's been obvious the whole way along. Now, some people like that about him. And they feel, I don't know, they relate to it in some way. They like George W. Bush, too. And he was also kind of juvenile and
but they like that.
In his behavior.
But they recognize it. Like, that's why I think this impeaches him as a witness, essentially, more than anything else. Because I think the people who do appreciate his temperament will basically say, yeah, he doesn't have a very good temperament, and I like that about him.
Right.
They would never say he's got a better temperament. Like they would never say that he is. I just think that's something that people like about him. And when he's sort of denying a central facet about him. Like if he said, you know what? I know why people say that, because I shoot from the hip and I say what's on my mind, and we're not used to that. But I think we need some of that in the presidency. Then I think he successfully does that. But he denies something that is so obvious. That I think it really undercuts faith even in his most faithful. Look, there's 35% of the country, I think, where he's right. He could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, and they'd just be like, "Where should we put the body, Mr. Trump?" But I think beyond that, I think impeaches his sort of. I don't know.
I think you're right. I hadn't thought about that before, but I think you're absolutely right about that. When he just asserts something boldly like that isn't true, I think that there are some people who are kind of going, hey, wait a minute, you don't have, you're hot-tempered, you're somebody who, you tell it like it is. That's what we like about you. Him not being able to admit that is kind of, I think that there have to be some people out there who are going, well, wait a minute, I like the fact that you are, that you are a loose cannon. That's what we need in there, like George Patton or whatever. He sounds like he's contradicting himself, and I think, and certainly contradicting their impression of him, which is clearly, you cannot the idea that he, and I've sort of done this through the whole campaign. I've been noting this as the, I know you are, but what am I strategy. People say, well, she has the better temperament. All the polling says that. It's obvious. She is a calm and rational, highly skilled mainstream politician. That is who she is, for better or worse. The one thing you can't say about Hillary Clinton is that she doesn't have, a steely kind of, she doesn't quit. She's a very,
the right-wing meme
person.
is that she's a robot, right? I mean, so how do you say that she's out of control, but she's also a robot? She's one of those out-of-control robots.
Out of control robot.
One of those weird women robots, you know, I mean, oh my God. And, it is just patently obvious that he is something other than that, and that even though, so he looks at the polls and says, well, that's just wrong. I'm better than her. My temperament is better than her. Instead of saying to himself, well, they're misinterpreting that, or my temperament is different, people like this about me, blah, blah, blah. He is automatically rejects any criticism. Criticism is it's just wrong. And whatever they're saying is absolutely the opposite of reality. So if they say she has a better temperament, he says, that's absolutely wrong. I have a better temperament. If they say she has more experience, wrong. I have more experience, even though it's patently bizarre and wrong. Although, I don't know how he does on this honesty and trustworthy thing. They are both sort of in the dirt on that one. And it's interesting that didn't come up last night. I assume it will as time goes on. And
yes,
if
and I'm glad that it didn't. I mean, I think to Lester Holt's credit, we get it. Nobody thinks that they're trustworthy, and
they're all a bunch of liars.
Well,
okay?
That's what I mean. I think why I thought Lester Holt put it on such good playing field, because I just honestly, I put in the what's your favorite color? Quick, don't think twice. We don't really care.
If you were a tree, what kind would you be? All that kind of stuff. We don't need that. Although I think the next one's a town hall, isn't it? So we may find a little bit more of that sort of thing if the questions come from the people. Although, in reality, when they do throw the questions to actual, regular humans, they do tend to be more substantive.
I think so.
It's the media that does this performance art thing that they do.
Although I got to say, the Lester Holt did a great job with that. Hey folks, Sam Seder here. I just got back from a company-wide meeting. Accounting is really coming down on me hard. We need to get to 100,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So please enjoy this channel. Subscribe right down there.